Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Zappy here, back again with Kuroko in a basket. We are on episode 5 of season 1, and in the last episode we had the match between Seirin and Kaijo, and Seirin got the win on a buzzer beater, which I feel like is going to be a thing that happens a lot in this show, because to me basketball is like one of them games, like one of them sports that is like a game of table tennis. It's like it's back and forward, and you know there's always close calls. I mean, I may be sort of wrong in that sense, because you know I've said before I don't really watch basketball or like the NBA or anything like that, but like anytime I do hear about it, it always seems like it always comes down to the wire. So I don't know, but I feel like for this show, I feel like they're going to sort of showcase just the main matches that actually mean a lot. So I feel like it's always going to be like pushing each other to the limit, and it's just going to come down to the very last sort of second. So I feel like buzzer beaters are going to be a thing that might happen a lot, but we'll see. So yeah, I wasn't expecting Seirin to get the win. I mean, I guess what it does come down to is the fact of like Kaijo were sort of underestimating them, and they didn't really hit the gas running at all until like the last quarter, it feels like. I mean, when Kisei turned it on, if he had been doing that for like earlier in the match, or like, you know, from the very get-go, the result would have been way different, I'd imagine. So you know, I feel like it was part of it was just underestimating their opponent, and the fact of like not just Kuroko but the whole team of Seirin like bringing out their sort of A game and seeing what all of them can do. So kind of it worked well in the sense of like, you know, like it now puts Seirin on Kaijo's radar. They're not going to underestimate them the next time, like especially when it comes to a competitive game, with this just being a practice match. You know, but I mean, like Kuroko, his whole deal is basically doing things like out of nowhere and being unexpected and stuff like that. But you know, not just them. You've got all of the sort of senpais of the team, like Hyuga, who's a clutch shooter, Izuki, who's calm, cool, and collected, Midobe, who is a sort of unsung hero and a hard worker, and Kogane, who is a jack of all trades and a master of none. Now, speaking of Kogane, I wouldn't have noticed this if I hadn't been watching the Haikyuu OVA, the one that was just obviously before season 4. I was watching a reaction to that, and there was a moment where there's a player that plays for Fukuro Dani who at one moment in the OVA pulls out like, just, you know, like he basically like hits it. It's sort of like unconventional type of hit over I think he was like defending it, but he like hit it so far over he didn't mean to or whatever. It went to the opponent's side, and actually ended up getting a point from it. And someone from the crowd shouted that like the jack of all trades. So I wonder if that's something that's going to like, if that's something like similar to this, where I feel like Kogane is going to be very understated and he's not going to do a lot, but there may be moments where he pulls out something that like you just didn't expect him to pull out. You know, so I wonder if it's the same kind of deal there. I wouldn't have written that down unless, you know, it just happened to show up yesterday when I was watching it. So, you know, we'll see what happens though. And then yeah, we had the another Generation of Miracles as well on the way to watch the practice match, who has, you know, I think he's missed it. I think he's just missed the whole thing, unless we come in episode 5 and he's just been sitting there, so maybe he caught like the last point or something like that. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say, if he's like, you know, if he's surprised by the result or anything like that. We'll see. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about, so we're going to get in episode 5. Oh yeah, if you do want to go watch the reaction, I almost forgot that. If you do want to go watch the actual reaction highlights, the link is in the description. There'll also be a link to the full length there if you do want to watch it in full and not just the 10-minute version. So yeah, nothing else to really talk about. Let's get in episode 5 right now. Okay, episode 5. Right, yeah, really cool. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the sort of aftermath, I suppose, of the match in general with Kisei. That was my favorite part of the episode, because it kind of just it puts into perspective, especially like what Kisei is thinking about the whole thing. You know, like how he feels about it all, because yeah, like I did sort of like forget about that whole thing, about the whole, you know, the Generation of Miracles and everything that happened to Teiko. It was never about teamwork and everything. You know, and Kisei, you know, basically at the beginning of the episode, like crying or like, you know, shedding a tear and not expecting it to come out. because he'd never felt that way before, because he'd never lost at all. Like he said that was the first time that he'd lost. And the way that he phrased it as well about, like, I lost, you know what I mean? Like, it's still ingrained in him, everything from Teiko, and you know, the whole thing about being just individual and not seeing yourself as, like, part of a team. That the way, even, like, the way that he says, he talks about it is very, like, about, you know, it's about me and whatnot, and not really the team. You know, so it definitely sort of hit him quite hard. And tied that with what he was talking about with Kuroko later on, about how, you know, like, Kuroko had left a championship match, I suppose midway through, or didn't turn up to one of them, because Kuroko just didn't agree with the ideology of the way that Teiko were playing, that it wasn't a team game or anything like that. And it's kind of, it is interesting, because obviously they say it at the end, like, at the beginning of every episode, it's got the whole, the Generation of Miracles thing, and you know, before the intro, it plays that whole thing. And it specifically states that there was one, you know, when it's talking about Kuroko, it's like there was another that was recognized by them. And it's interesting that they think that, like, you know, they recognize Kuroko, because he doesn't have a individual moveset, so to speak. Like, his style of play is all support based. So he, like, his is the one style out of them all that, like, dictates, like, he needs a team, like, around him, you know, because he's the one to pass the ball to the others, you know what I mean? Like, all of his is basically like support based, so it makes sense that he mostly would hate it for that reason. But I don't think it's just because he didn't feel, well, I guess it is, it's like he just didn't feel like it was, like, you know, I'm being part of a team here. But you know, like, even Midorima is his name. I looked it up just so I wasn't just saying the guy with the green hair. So yeah, I mean, because Kisei had him, you know, he was saying his nickname or whatever, so Midorimichi or whatever the fuck it is, but Midorima, right? So he was saying that he respects Kuroko's sort of style, though they would never get on, and, you know, and he's all about this, like, horoscope shit, and you know, about how that, which, again, like, that's another thing that I'm surprised he, like, because there are things that coincide with each other that don't, like, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's like a hypocritical statement that they make compared to what they were all about, in terms of, you know, with Teiko Middle School being all about, like, individual play and everything like that. It's almost like I'd feel like all of the different players were kind of full of themselves in that way, and that, you know, they are just, they're like, you know, our skill is what, you know, is proven on the court. But then you've got the likes of, you know, Midorima being all into the horoscopes and stuff, and how it's going to be, it's a good day for me, and therefore, like, what did he say? He said something along the lines of, I think it was to do with his star sign, right? So, what is it? He's a Cancer, right? And that, you know, on days where it's good for me, it's like, it's almost like that was, like, helping him in a way, you know. But I mean, he can't dictate that the whole time, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't believe in all that horoscope and star sign shit anyway, but the I mean, the whole idea is, like, the fact that he believes it, he can't choose, you know, a day where it's going to be good for him, you know what I mean? With him, it could just, like, a match could land on a day where he's supposed to have terrible luck for the day. But, you know, I don't know. It's just interesting, like, the sort of the different dynamics that, you know, I suppose I'm kind of, in a way, I'm kind of just trying to analyze the other Generation of Miracles based upon the way Kisei is, which is probably wrong. I probably need to just see what all of the other, you know, like, how the other Generation of Miracles and whatnot, like, handle themselves. But, you know, it's not just, like, me looking at Kisei and thinking, oh, well, the others are probably the same. It's more like the way Kuroko talks about it, you know what I mean? He doesn't really talk about them individually. I'm sure he will, have his say on them when they turn up in the story. But like when he's talking about the, Teiko as a whole, and he doesn't like the ideology and whatnot, that I feel like the Generation of Miracles didn't care. So therefore, they must have this image of basketball where it's like they are above everybody else. That they are kind of full of themselves in that way in regards to that. But I don't know. I guess we'll just wait and like see what each character sort of brings to the table, and like how they actually feel about the the whole situation and everything like that. But yeah. So I mean, Midorima is the number one shooter, of course. And yeah, I suppose it makes sense. The guy with the glasses is the one that shoots from far, But yeah, so interesting. And also, he is part of the team that he plays for. Is in the same district as Serene, because Kaiju were talking about how they're not in the same district as Serene, so therefore the next if they do play a competitive match, then it'll be in the Inter-High and not the prelims. So interesting, because I don't think that's something we've had with Haikyuu. Like, I know that Haikyuu had the prelims and whatnot, but I think their prelims were specifically just the prefecture. I don't think they went as far as to just do district for prelims, and then that gets them into high, which becomes the prefecture, and then if you win that, you go on to the nationals to play against the other prefectures. But I don't think in Haikyuu they ever mentioned, like, they could have done it and they just never mentioned it, but the whole district thing being strictly for prelims, I don't know if that was the case or whatnot, but it seems as though Midorima is in the same, because he was saying that they're going to face each other in the prelims, so they must be in the same district, whereas Kaijo isn't. So yeah, interesting. Cool. I can't wait to get into like the fucking like the competitive matches, you know what I mean, because it's just like, I just know, like, at this point, it's just like the practice matches had tense moments, you know what I mean? But you just know that in a competitive match, it's going to be, the stakes are high, of course. So, that's when, like, the real hype comes in. So, yeah. What else? So, we had Kisei talking about how he thinks that Kagami will end up becoming just like the Generation of Miracles did, because he hasn't reached that level yet that the Generation of Miracles were at, so therefore he has no reason to believe that he can do everything on his own. In order to beat Kisei, he had to have Kuroko and the team around him in order to beat him, you know what I mean? But I think what Kisei was saying there was like, if he keeps going on that road, he'll get to a point where he just is above everybody on his own team, and therefore he feels like the team could end up bringing him down, and therefore that's what will make him sort of split off from the team. And interestingly enough, like, at the end of the episode there, I was like, I want to talk about it, but I didn't want to interrupt. So, but what I was talking about was there was a moment where obviously Kagami was like, or Kuroko said to Kagami, did you overhear the conversation? And Kagami says, well, if what you say is true, and I basically need you, Kuroko, then you have nothing to worry about. But I mean, that kind of does, by saying that, like, it almost backs Kisei's argument about that whole thing, you know what I mean? Because, Kagami was basing it around what Kuroko was saying, but that is like right now, you know what I mean? Basically what it means is that Kuroko is going to have to, like, sort of, I guess, keep up, and just keep getting better and better, because, I mean, that's the whole thing. If Kagami ends, like, he just becomes better and better and better and better, and he gets to a point where he's just so good that maybe he might not need Kuroko or whatnot to take on the Generation of Miracles, and then it's like, well, what now, kind of thing. Like, maybe it's a case of, like, he'll be thinking, like, I'm not saying where I am in terms of skill ability against other Generation of Miracles, because I've got one here who's also helping me out. Like, what if he was thinking hypothetically, I want a team around me that's not that doesn't have Kuroko in it, because then I can truly see which one is better out of me versus one of the Generation of Miracles, one-on-one kind of thing, even though there's a team around them. And I think that's what Kisei's argument was, but it's just something we'll have to wait and see. Like, you see, they've set that up now, so that can be like a story thing going forward. Like, there could be a time where maybe he does reach a level where he's like, he maybe has to fight with himself, and there could be a some drama based around that. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But I love that moment of Kuroko basically like bigging up Kagami and like the reason why he likes him and stuff. You know what I mean? Because I think like that's the thing, is like Kagami's, I think, immediately coming in, like he kind of has that sort of thuggish sort of like way about him kind of thing. But the fact is, when he's like playing basketball and whatnot like that, like he becomes like that cool guy, and he's not as like he's not as hard up about stuff. He just loves playing basketball and stuff. And the fact that like Kuroko, like that's the reason why he likes him, and the way that he just loves basketball. It's like it's just the perfect match for Kuroko. So yeah. And yeah, I mean, Kisei basically saying as well that it wasn't just Kuroko. I guess, I mean, for that match, Kuroko was his weakness, but like Kisei was admitting there that the other Generation of Miracles abilities, like what they're good at, is so good that he can't imitate them. And kind of, I suppose, kind of like Kagami, like he can't imitate Kagami's highest jump, So it's yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I mean, I guess it's a thing of. I guess there's something similar, I guess, in regards to what I asked with, like, I've asked with Demon Slayer in the past about how, like, visuals and, like, is there actual, like, sort of abilities or, like, magic involved in the shit that they do? Because with Haikyuu, it's very obvious that it is more based around realism and whatnot, I think I've asked this before, actually, in like episode 1 or episode 2 of Kuroko, where it's just like, how is he invisible? You know what I mean? But it's like, it's going to be interesting to see going forward the different abilities. I mean, I suppose with like Midorima, it's just going to be like, I'm going to guess he's going to get more, like he's going to get 3-pointers galore, essentially, right? But how far back can he go? You know what I mean? And just still fucking hit it. And I mean, I suppose there is still realism based within that. But the fact that, like, Kisei's whole thing is about imitating. And it's like, you're basically just copying their technique and giving it to them back. But, like, if he's saying that their abilities are so good that even he can't imitate it, like, then maybe is there something a bit more there? Is it a bit more... Because it feels like it's more... like over the top than Haikyuu is, you know what I mean? Where Haikyuu is more grounded in reality kind of stuff. That in Kuroko it seems like there's a bit more going on there. Like they're kind of, what's the term? Because over the top is like, it sounds like a negative term that I'm using. It's not, you know what I mean? I'm still loving it regardless. It doesn't like, just because the fact that it may not be as realistic as Haikyuu doesn't mean that that's a negative about the show. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it going forward. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. So yeah, really cool. I love the fact of like Kisei as well being able to be part of the team for like just a bit, like, and just having them be like a 3-on-5, and they just wipe the floor with them, and it's like great. And even it had a moment where it was like like it went to Kuroko, and they've got like this ambience around them that they're enjoying playing against these guys, you know what I mean? And then Kagami, and he was enjoying it, and then Kisei, and he was enjoying it. That it maybe in that moment, because after that moment and whatnot, when Kuroko and Kagami were like just like spatting at each other or whatever, that Kisei like had a slight smile on his face, and I wonder if it's like if he understands it a bit more after that, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the things, like, I like Kisei. I think he's I think he's like his heart is in the right place, So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where all these people go, and especially for the fucking competitive matches. Like, just get me in there. You know what I mean? I figured that what we're going to be going into now is like some practice and whatnot before, like, you know, maybe for like the next couple of episodes, and then we get into some like actual competitive matches like in the prelims or anything like that. But yeah, we'll wait and see. But yeah, really good episode, so thank you everyone for watching. In the description below I've linked to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you wish. And I also have a Patreon page as well, so if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier, $5 a month. That gives you access to shows a week early, including Kuroko no Basket. So episode 6 will be out the same day as this, but if you do want to get access to episode 7 and 8 immediately, then you can do by becoming an early access tier patron. And that goes for all the other shows that I'm reacting to as well. There's also full length there for $10 a month. If you do want to watch any of these in full, then you can do. And then there are other tiers where you can pay to have a show reacted to as well. So if you want me to react to a show, go have a look at those tiers and see what they offer. But that is all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.